With less than a week until a potential government shutdown, expiring health care tax credits are one of the main sticking points in negotiations between Democrats and Republicans. Joining us now, New Hampshire Democrat Senator Shaheen, who's been leading a push to extend the tax credits. Senator, it's good to see you, and you've got some Republican senators that seem to be have some empathy for what you're trying to do, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to, or that you're all going to be able to agree on something before the stopgap. And everybody says you can do it afterwards. Get this done, and you can still get it done before November when everybody signs up for Obamacare, so there'd still be time. Is that an option?
Well, of course, there are lots of ways to get this done. And I think if people would get to the negotiating table, it's not that hard. But the nonpartisan Office of the Congressional Budget Office has said that if we wait until the end of the year, there are going to be 1.5 million more people who are going to lose their health insurance if we do that. And what we know is that failure to extend those tax credits is going to see insurance costs rise for over 20 million people, and about 4 million people lose their health insurance entirely. So this is something that we need to address. As you pointed out, there are a number of colleagues on the other side of the aisle who also recognize that this is an issue that needs to be addressed. And I think if we could get the leadership to sit down at the table and talk about how we solve this, it's in everybody's interest to keep the government open and to make sure that people don't lose their health insurance. And when you have the president saying to the Republican leadership in Congress, don't talk to the Democrats, and then canceling a meeting with the Democrats, and Senator Thune saying he's not going to sit down and talk, that isn't conducive to getting a resolution.
If we really are bluntly honest about it, are there other things that Senator Schumer and Democrats want to load this up with, give them an inch and they'll take them out? Would it be possible just to get what you want? And if you did offer that, would there be some openings on the Republican side, or is the problem, that some of your colleagues on the Democratic side are asking for too many things, and they won't agree to whittle it just down to what you want? Because I know that Senator Johnson he doesn't even want to do this. He thinks that there's fraud, and that there are some Republicans that just don't want to do what you're talking about. But others are ready to do it. They just don't want to get, taken to the cleaners with a bunch of other things.
Well, I had a roundtable yesterday with a number of small business owners in New Hampshire who rely on those tax credits to help make sure their employees get health insurance, and who themselves rely on it. And they talked about the impact it would have if those tax credits expire and their premiums go up dramatically. The number of their employees who were going to drop health insurance, unfortunately, because they're young and they're healthy, and if it gets hard and too expensive, they won't be able to do it. And then they also raised it in the context of tariffs. They all talked about how they're being affected by the rising tariffs, and that this, on top of that, just adds to the cost increases that are making it hard to operate.
But you're not really answering it.
I'm not answering your question because I think it's a bigger, problem that you're not acknowledging.
So you can convince
in reality,
Johnson.
Let me just finish and answer your question, because in reality, the problem is not that we can't find a solution to this. The problem is that the leadership is not going to the table and sitting down and negotiating, because if they negotiated, we could find a way to deal with this. We have Republicans who are interested in extending the premium tax credits. We recognize the other challenges with health care, but this is one that is in everybody's interest to extend, and the president should recognize that. Even his own pollsters say that if we don't extend these tax credits, the GOP is going to pay at the polls next year.
Yeah, but you can imagine if you make that case to either Senator Thune or to the president and say, look, this is all we want, and then they hear, oh, they're going to want this and this and this and this and this, and because they're the majority party and they control, the executive branch, they control everything at this point, so they don't. If they think that there's going to be a lot of theater and kabuki and all these other things we need, which we know Senator Schumer is capable of, and why even get involved? Why, that's what I think they're saying.
Well,
if you're going to shut the government, shut it.
Doing kabuki theater. He's threatening to fire a bunch of employees
Right.
if we don't keep the government open. I mean, so my point is, everybody needs to stop the kabuki theater
Right.
and go to the table and negotiate.
Well, if you
that's what
don't-
the American people are expecting.
If you don't, and I don't know whether you can whittle it down to just what you want, but let's say that there is no negotiating. Do you think that Democrats should go ahead and not vote for it so that I won't say the Democrats shut it down, because they'll say that the Republicans not negotiating with them is causing the shutdown. But do you think, for whatever reason, the government we should allow the government to shut down?
My position is it's in everyone's interest to keep the government open. That's the best course of action, and to make sure that we don't have millions of people losing their health insurance.
But could you
And it's very
negotiate after
easy
the
to do
after
both
the
of
CR?
those.
Could if
Yeah,
they guarantee
we can solve this. There are a number of ways to solve this problem, but in order
Okay.
to do that, you have to talk to each other.
Yeah. Okay. So there is a deal somewhere in there that I guess you just have to take their word for it, that do the CR, and then before November you'd have to agree to do this. No?
I'm a believer in Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. I think if you get an agreement, it is keep the government open, and we're going to agree that we're going to solve this problem with the premium tax credits or some other issue that helps ensure that the American people can keep their health care.
What are do you know what's likely to be in addition to what you're talking about? What are other senators, Democratic senators' key priorities that they want to layer on to what you're talking about? I mean, you must know.
Well, no, I don't, in fact, and I haven't heard people talking about layering on anything else.
So
what I've
this is
heard
it
is
for you.
concern about ensuring that Americans can keep their health insurance. And I think that's an easy issue to solve. And we have people on both sides of the aisle who want to do that.